Hi everyone. So I started this page back in December and I've never really done a formal introduction of who I am and why I started this page. So I thought I would take this chance to introduce myself and let you all learn a little bit about my story, my son's story, and how I became a special needs parent and how I became a special needs parenting blogger. Surprisingly, the latter came first. So the beginning of this story starts way back in 2010 when I was pregnant with my first child, and I had two other friends who were also pregnant with their first children. And all of our babies, who are all boys, were due within about a 2-month time frame. And so Adam, my friend Catherine's son, was born first, and then came Stephen, my friend Sarah's son, and then came my son Ezra. And we had these three boys, bam, bam, bam. Well, I had some difficulties with birth. We all three of us had kind of challenging birth stories, really difficult recovery periods. But eventually we all came out of the woods, kind of wrecked by motherhood. And my baby went on to kind of have a pretty normal babyhood. Looking back, I can see he was definitely what would be considered a high needs baby, but he met his milestones on time. He ate fine. He had a few aversions, but, nothing serious. Whereas my friends' children, both really struggled with feeding right off the bat, didn't meet their milestones on time, at least some of them. And by the time that our boys were about the 2-year-old range, the discrepancies between my child Ezra and their children was pretty vast. Stephen had a feeding tube. Both Stephen and Adam, had sensory processing disorder diagnoses and autism diagnoses. So here we are, 3 new young moms, we had met on an online message board for military wives, and trying to navigate first-time motherhood, friendship, online friendship, and I made a lot of mistakes. I kind of was really trying to understand what they were going through, but I didn't fully understand it. And so there was some tension in the friendships that I had with them. But we persevered, and we communicated, and we had phone calls. And by the time our boys were nearing 3, I really felt like we had something special. In spite of the differences between my kid and their kids, we had maintained an online long-distance friendship in spite of the challenges that we were all facing as moms. So, on my blog, because I'd been blogging since 2008, I decided that I wanted to write a post for moms who did not have special needs children, so that they could better understand the challenges that their friends were facing who had special needs children, and so that they could know how to help them, how to encourage them, what to say, what not to say, and share some of the mistakes that I had made as a friend. So my first post about special needs on my blog went live in July of 2013. It's called How to Encourage a Special Needs Mom When You Aren't One. And it was very well received, not just by my friends who really appreciated it, but by the greater special needs audience, and it began to be shared. I had a couple thousand views on it in July and August of that year. And through that post, another girl, her name was Katie, She found my blog and she started following me on Facebook, and she began to comment on everything that I was writing. We just really had a lot in common. So we connected over email and then over Facebook, and we began to develop this friendship. And she was also somehow had gotten connected with Catherine, Adam's mom, through Catherine's blog, because Catherine has a blog. And so the three of us started talking a lot on Facebook, private messenger. And then right around the turn of the year to 2014, we, Katie and Catherine and I, downloaded this app called Voxer, which allows you to have kind of leave like voicemails for each other, but you can leave them as long as 15 minutes, and then you can respond, or if you're both on at the same time, it kind of works like a walkie-talkie. So we started having conversations on Voxer. And a lot of these conversations had to do with special needs parenting. Like within a week of when we started talking, a special needs parent in the Atlanta area who has over 100,000 Facebook fans shared my post, How to Encourage a Special Needs Mom When You Aren't One, to her Facebook page, and it went viral. I had over 100,000 hits on that post in one day, and I had hundreds and hundreds of comments, a bunch of new followers, and it just took off. So as we're kind of starting this more deep connected friendship through Voxer, I have this post going viral, and we began to really delve into what community should look like, what our friendship should look like. I posted a follow-up post. Actually, I think I let Katie guest post for me as a follow-up to that post, and she added 5 more ways that special needs moms can be encouraged. And we made a printable of the post, and we just did a whole bunch of stuff. I really wanted to write a book about this. Never did happen. But in so doing, I decided in about July of 2014 that I was going to do a whole blog series, 31 posts for 31 days in October, which is a blogging link up in the blogging world of people who pick a topic, blog on it for 31 days. And I decided that in October of 2014, I was going to blog about special needs, and I was going to allow special needs moms to come on my blog and tell their story, to talk about the hard issues about finances and family, extended family, community, friendships between special needs parents and not special needs parents, until I began really like lining this up in the summer. Like I started asking people to guest post, I started collecting submissions, and getting it all together. So then this is where the story just kind of really unfolds. As I'm going through all this, and I'm having this deep talking every day on the phone relationship with Katie and Catherine. Katie, her son is a year older than our sons, and he has autism and sensory processing disorder, was also diagnosed around age 2. So as I'm having these conversations with them, I was really struggling with my own son, who was highly cognitive. You know, he knew his ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and phonics, and super smart, colors, shapes, numbers, but could not behave. Everywhere I would take him, we would get reports that, okay, Ezra's kicking, Ezra's hitting, Ezra's spitting, Ezra's saying mean things, Ezra's arguing. He began to be very physically aggressive at home with us. We just could not get him to do the basic things to get through the day. Sit down and eat. Get your clothes on. Let's get out the door. Get in your seat. Let's do your buckles. Put your shoes on. There was a lot of throwing things and screaming and crying and whining, and we just didn't know what to do. And everyone that I talked to said, oh, it's just the terrible 3s. Kids are hard. You just need to be consistent. You just need to be consistent. You know, you really need to read this book or that book, and you just need to be consistent. Kids just, you know, you need to show them who's the parent. You need to show him who's the boss. just be consistent. And I got to this point where I was like, if one more person tells me that I just need to be consistent with my kid, I literally may punch them in the face. But there were two people who didn't tell me, just be consistent. And their names were Katie and Catherine, these other moms that I was talking to who have children with special needs. And as these conversations progressed, what I ended up hearing from them a lot was, Jack does that. Adam does that. Adam goes to OT because of that. Yeah, Jack does that too. And this is what we do. We have him in therapy for that. And as the summer progressed, they encouraged me. They said, April, there may be something more going on with Ezra. You should have him in for an OT eval. You should see a developmental pediatrician. You need to take him to your doctor. And so I began, we'd put Ezra in preschool in the beginning of 2014, and it wasn't working out well. He wasn't doing well. I was getting called to the school sometimes every day because he was out of line, and they wanted me to deal with him instead of enacting discipline there. And it was just a very trying time. So I followed the advice of my friend and began pursuing, I wouldn't have even said a diagnosis at the time, but I was pursuing help. I was taking my child to doctors and saying, this isn't normal. I don't think this is normal. Is this normal? And at the beginning of this process, way back in February 2014, I got a lot of, well, all kids do this, and maybe he's just drinking too much juice, and are you letting him play outside enough? And people, like, even the professionals I was talking to, like, weren't getting it. And I began to think, am I going crazy? Or the more I talked with these moms, Katie and Catherine, the more I felt really validated that there was something more going on with my child than just the terrible threes. So all this time, I'm still preparing this blog series for special needs parents. And finally, in August of that year, I was able to see a developmental pediatrician who spent 5 minutes with my child and said, you can put him in preschool, but he's probably not going to succeed there. He needs behavioral therapy. And he put in a referral for us to get a screening at a day treatment behavioral therapy program. And I was like, finally, someone is getting it. And sure enough, we put Ezra back in 5-day-a-week preschool in August. His first day of school was August 26th, and by September 12th, he was expelled from Christian preschool for behavior. And at this point, I'm still waiting to hear back about this referral for day treatment. But he's home with me. I'm literally trying to pull my hair out, trying to figure out how to even get through the day. At one point during that day, he took a plate and threw it against the wall. I went to a mom's group at my church, the church I was attending at the time, and they called me from the nursery. They said, he's throwing chairs across the room. You have to come get him. We can't have him here. So I was just at the complete end of my rope. So I continued with this blog series, which aired October 1st was the first post. October 6th was when my son started behavioral therapy at a day treatment program. He was given a diagnosis of ADHD and adjustment disorder. And I was able to blog his story of becoming a special needs child. Well, not he always was a special needs child, but his process of getting his diagnosis and what it was like for me as a parent having a kid who was kind of out of the box because he didn't really fit in the neat, special needs kid diagnosed with autism at 2, in services by 3, like my friends' kids. Not that any of that is simple or straightforward. I know that it was challenging for them, but his his symptoms, I think, took a little bit longer to manifest because he was so cognitively high functioning. And yet, he wasn't a typical kid because I would take him to the mall and it was time to go, and I would have to pick him up, carrying him, kicking and screaming at nearly age 4, which was not typical behavior. And I want to be like, I promise I'm not just a bad parent. Like, there's something more going on, but I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a diagnosis. So once we got his diagnosis in October, I was really able to get some help for him. He ended up doing 6 months in day treatment, working with a counselor for a while, and then had some regression and ended up doing 9 months of intensive in-home therapy, intensive in-home services, where he ended up receiving an additional diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder. And throughout all of this, he was also reevaluated for occupational therapy, at which point they said that he has definite sensory processing differences, not a sensory processing disorder diagnosis, but so he was in occupational therapy twice a week for about a year. He's still in occupational therapy at a more reduced level. He has a therapist that comes to the house once a month. So, like I said, I began talking about special needs on my blog as someone who is outside of the special needs community, looking in, wanting to be a help, wanting to be an encouragement, and being the one that actually ended up being encouraged by other special needs moms when I was going through the process of a diagnosis for my kid and struggling with all the ins and outs of behavioral therapy and medication trials and all of the things involved in mothering my own child. So special needs has been a focus on my blog since 2014. Can't believe, wow, almost 3 years. And I wanted to do another 31-day series about special needs last year, but I ended up just scrapping that. I'm still posting about it, but I didn't want the pressure of having to post every day for 31 days. So the new series on my blog is called Special Needs Survival. I started it last fall, and as posts come up that I feel like writing about or guest posters want to post, they're all going to one page. So then that brings me to this page, Special Needs Survival. I was doing some restructuring on my main Facebook page, and I felt like I had a really good audience of special needs parents, but I also had a really good audience of parents who were not special needs parents, and I didn't want to overwhelm them with so much focus on special needs. So I split my page and I started a new page just for special needs parents called Special Needs Survival. I also started a private Facebook group. So if you have not joined that, feel free to search for it. It's called Special Needs Survival, or facebook.com/groups/special needs survival. So that's me, that's our story, that's how I became a special needs blogger. I so appreciate all of your likes and comments and shares on all of the things I've been posting. Invite your friends, I'd like to see this page grow. And I wish you the best of luck. Not that I believe in luck, but I wish you the best today on your journey as a special needs parent. And we're all in this together, regardless of diagnosis, regardless of how old your child is. This page is all about just getting through the day as a special needs parent. And I am so thankful that you are walking along with me.